What if I told you Johnny Depp just gave the performance of his life, and it wasn't as Jack Sparrow? You've seen him as the quirky pirate who sways across the deck with a bottle of rum in hand, the brooding chocolatier who melts hearts, while crafting confections, and the tragic, silent Edward Scissorhands who could never touch the world without hurting it. Johnny Depp has made a career out of playing the misunderstood, the whimsical, and the wounded. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared audiences for what they just experienced in Modi. This isn't just a movie, it's a soul. On screen, a piece of art that feels like it came straight from the depths of someone who's lived, lost, and learned. If you're like most people, you probably assumed Depp's Hollywood career was over. The headlines were brutal. The court cases were public and painful. For a while, it felt like he was more tabloid story than screen icon. Maybe you stopped rooting for him. Maybe you were just tired of the drama, and if that's the case, you're definitely not alone. Hollywood has a long memory when it comes to controversy, but a short one when it comes to grace. Yet here's the twist. Not only is Depp back, he's back in a way that's deeper, more vulnerable, and more masterful than we've ever seen before. He isn't just reclaiming the spotlight, he's completely reshaping what we expect from him. And believe me, this isn't a performance you'll forget. The film Modi, short for Amedeo Modigliani, isn't your typical comeback vehicle. It doesn't scream Hollywood blockbuster. There are no explosions, no car chases, no sprawling casts of superheroes. It's not even in color. It's a black and white film with a minimalist aesthetic, and yet it has more emotional depth in a single scene than most big-budget movies pack into 2 hours. Even more surprising, Johnny Depp isn't the star. He doesn't appear on screen at all. Instead, he's the director, a role he's only taken on once before, over 2 decades ago, with the 1997 film The Brave. That film, while personal to him, was largely dismissed at the time. So why, after everything, would he return to directing now? And why this story? The answer, as it turns out, is deeply personal. Modi follows the life of Amedeo Modigliani, an Italian painter and sculptor whose art was widely rejected during his lifetime. He was seen as reckless, rebellious, and self-destructive. Sound familiar? Depp has openly admitted that he felt a profound connection to Modigliani's life, the chaos, the criticism, the constant battle between self-expression and societal judgment. Like Depp, Modigliani was a man torn between the beauty he created and the destruction he lived through. He died young, unrecognized by the art world that now reveres him. For Depp, telling Modigliani's story felt like telling his own, through the lens of another man's tragedy. The narrative of Modi unfolds over a tense 48 hours in Paris in 1916. It's a moment of artistic and existential crisis. Modigliani is on the run, from creditors, from the police, from his own demons. He's trying to protect his legacy, to sell his art, to make peace with the choices that have haunted him. And all of this happens under the constant weight of rejection and the creeping realization that genius often goes unseen until it's too late. There's no grand climax, no dramatic explosion, just a slow, intimate unraveling of a man who gave everything to his art and received nothing but judgment in return. Depp, it seems, knew exactly how to tell that story, and though Depp stays behind the camera, his fingerprints are on every frame. The way the scenes are lit, with stark contrast between shadow and light, echo the emotional duality of both. Modigliani and Depp himself. The use of silence is strategic and powerful. Whole moments go by without a single word being spoken, yet the emotion is unmistakable. There's a particular scene, one that many viewers say brought them to tears, where Modigliani simply stares at a painting, and it's as if he's staring into his own past. You feel the weight of a lifetime in his silence. Depp knew exactly when to speak and, more importantly, when not to. Critics have been stunned, not in a loud, blockbuster hype way, but in a reverent, whispering in the hallway kind of way. They've described the film as haunting, elegant, and devastatingly honest. Peter Travers, a longtime film critic known for his blunt takes, called it a masterclass in restraint and empathy. He went on to say that Depp directs not with ego, but with humility, like a man who's finally made peace with his pain. That's high praise, especially from an industry that hasn't always been kind to Depp in recent years. What's even more remarkable is the response from the audience. This isn't just a film critic's love, it's a film viewers are connecting with. On a deeply emotional level, people are coming out of the theaters in silence, some even in tears. They're not just moved, they're changed. One fan said, "I went in expecting a film about an artist. I walked out feeling like I understood something about myself." Others have gone back for second or even third viewings, saying each time reveals something new, a detail in the background, a flicker in the actor's eye, a whisper in the music that they hadn't noticed before. It's a film that demands, not requests, but demands your full attention, and it rewards you richly for giving it. Still, skepticism lingers in some corners. Is this just a carefully orchestrated redemption arc, a way for Depp to win back public favor after years of scandal and legal drama? It's a fair question, and honestly, it's one that was on a lot of minds when Modi was first announced. But the film itself answers that question far more eloquently than any press release or interview ever could. This isn't about image repair. This is about healing. This is about expression. This is about finally finding a voice after years of being silenced, mocked, and misunderstood. If this were just PR, it wouldn't hit you in the gut the way it does. And there's something else that sets this film apart: the symbolism. Every frame feels like a painting. The cinematography, done in black and white, isn't just a stylistic choice, it's thematic. It reflects the stark contrasts in Modigliani's life: genius and madness, beauty and ruin, acceptance and rejection. Depp plays with light in a way that mirrors the chiaroscuro of classic Italian painting, shadow and brightness locked in constant battle. It's a subtle, almost subconscious technique, but it speaks volumes. One particularly telling scene shows Modigliani sitting in a room half lit by a window, the other half is cast in darkness. It's a metaphor so clear you don't need dialogue to understand it. The actors themselves have spoken about the experience of working with Depp. They describe him not as a controlling director, but as a collaborator, someone who understands what it means to feel lost and tries to create a space where others can be found. Many said it was one of the most emotionally supportive sets they've ever been on. Depp, it seems, wasn't just making a film, he was creating a sanctuary, a space where people could dig deep, explore their vulnerabilities, and find truth in the process. That kind of environment is rare in any workplace, let alone a movie set. One lesser-known detail that might surprise you is how involved Depp was in every aspect of the film. He wasn't just calling the shots from behind the camera, he helped choose the score, composed with minimalist piano and cello arrangements that perfectly underscore the film's melancholy tone. He was involved in costume choices, set design, and even editing. In fact, he reportedly spent weeks in the editing room, meticulously shaping the film until it felt just right. That level of commitment isn't about ego, it's about passion. It's about making something that matters. And here's the kicker: Modi may just be the beginning of something far greater than a career comeback. Johnny Depp, once a darling of Hollywood and later its cautionary tale, appears to have found not only his voice again, but a deeper purpose. In recent interviews, he's hinted that this film has done something extraordinary for him. It's reignited a passion he hadn't fully explored in decades. Not the kind of passion that gets reignited by fame or critical acclaim, but a quieter, more enduring kind. The kind of passion that comes from creating something meaningful on your own terms. After spending years defined by public controversy and relentless tabloid attention, Depp seems to be stepping into a chapter of his life that isn't about reclaiming stardom, but about redefining legacy. It's a subtle yet profound shift, and what makes it even more powerful is that he isn't returning to the spotlight in the way most would expect. He's not chasing another blockbuster or trying to recapture the box office gold of Pirates of the Caribbean. Instead, he's sitting in the director's chair, quietly, intentionally, and with the kind of reverence that suggests he's finally where he belongs. There's already buzz in certain circles that Depp is in early talks to direct another biographical drama, this time centered around musicians, artists who, like Modigliani, lived loud, loved hard, and often died misunderstood. While the project hasn't been officially announced, sources close to the production say it could be about an iconic blues or jazz figure, someone whose name is known but whose soul has never quite been captured on screen. It's a fascinating direction for Depp to take, and perhaps not a coincidence. After all, music has always been a crucial part of his identity. Long before he was Captain Jack Sparrow, Depp was a musician. He's toured with rock legends, played in bands, and often spoken about how deeply music moves him. To shift his focus toward telling the stories of musicians feels not only natural, but inevitable. What's especially compelling is how Depp is approaching these new ventures, not with arrogance, but with a kind of humility that's rare in the film industry. He doesn't seem interested in glamorizing these subjects or turning their pain into spectacle. Instead, he's leaning into the quiet tragedy of lives lived in pursuit of something pure, something beautiful, even if the world never quite understood them. That ethos mirrors his own recent journey. After years of headlines that portrayed him as everything from a lost soul to a villain, Depp seems to be telling stories about people who experienced something similar. People who were chewed up and spit out by society, only to find solace in their art. He's not just making films, he's building bridges between himself and the figures he's bringing to life. There's something profoundly generous about that. It's not about ego, it's about empathy. You can feel it in every frame of Modi, and those who've had the privilege to work with him behind the scenes echo this sentiment. Crew members have spoken about how Depp fosters a collaborative environment on set, one where ideas flow freely and everyone's voice matters. That's not something you often hear about major stars turned directors. But Depp seems to understand that his job as a storyteller isn't just to direct the lens, it's to listen, to interpret, and to honor. And in doing so, he lifts up others who were once ignored or cast aside. In many ways, this next chapter of Depp's career feels like an act of quiet rebellion. He's not just stepping away from mainstream Hollywood, he's dismantling it from the outside, choosing instead to focus on human stories that rarely get told. He's putting his energy into projects that are emotionally honest, narratively rich, and deeply personal. And that may be the most radical thing about all of this, because for so long, Hollywood has thrived on reinvention through spectacle. But what Depp is doing is different. He's reinventing himself through sincerity, through stillness, through substance. Even the way he talks about directing has changed. In older interviews from his early career, Depp often sounded ambivalent about fame and filmmaking, like someone who happened to fall into acting, rather than someone born for it. But now, when he speaks about Modi and what's coming next, there's clarity. There's conviction. It's as if the chaos of the last few years stripped away everything that didn't matter, leaving behind a man who knows exactly what kind of art he wants to make, and more importantly, why he wants to make it. He's no longer trying to impress the industry or the critics. He's trying to connect, to give voice to those who were silenced, to shed light on lives lived in the shadows. It's also worth noting how unique this moment is in a broader cultural context. We're living in an age where celebrity comebacks are often orchestrated like marketing campaigns, glossy, shallow, and short-lived. But Depp's resurgence isn't about reclaiming the top of the box office, it's about reclaiming narrative. Not just his own, but the narratives of other complex, flawed, and ultimately human artists who have been misunderstood by history. That kind of work doesn't just happen, it requires introspection, pain, and a willingness to sit with uncomfortable truths. And Depp, for all his past flaws and missteps, seems to be doing just that. He's not pretending to be someone new. He's evolving, publicly, vulnerably, and through the lens of a camera. This evolution extends beyond film, too. Depp has begun mentoring younger artists, both in film and music. He's reportedly funding small, independent projects from first-time directors. He's giving platforms to those who otherwise wouldn't be heard. It's a full-circle moment for someone who once described himself as a perpetual outsider in Hollywood. By lifting others up, he's finally stepping into the role he was perhaps always meant to play, not just as an artist, but as a curator of voices that history tried to forget. That, in itself, is a redemption arc worth watching, because it's not just about one man's return to form, it's about what happens when someone who has been vilified, scrutinized, and dismissed chooses to respond not with defensiveness or bravado, but with art, with truth, with grace. In a world that often demands perfection but rarely offers forgiveness, Johnny Depp is showing what it means to rise again. Not to reclaim what was lost, but to create something entirely new in its place. And if Modi is any indication, we're only at the beginning of what could be one of the most surprising and meaningful second acts in Hollywood history. Now, let's talk accessibility. For all the buzz surrounding Modi, it's important to note that most people still haven't had the chance to see it. And that's not because of lack of interest. It's because Modi isn't in wide theatrical release. Instead, it's been making its way through the indie film festival circuit, drawing quiet but powerful praise in cities known more for their art scenes than their megaplexes. Venice, Telluride, Toronto, Paris. These are the kinds of places where the film has screened, where audiences tend to come for the story, not the spectacle. And every time it leaves behind a trail of hushed awe and emotional impact. It's the kind of film that doesn't make headlines for breaking box office records. It makes an impression for how deeply it moves people. For those not near these festival cities, it might feel frustrating. A film like this, so intimate, so meaningful, deserves to be widely accessible. And the good news is that's slowly becoming a reality. Some reputable streaming platforms are already in talks to acquire Modi for a broader release later this year. These are not your usual mainstream streamers focused on flashy originals and algorithms. We're talking about platforms known for curating thoughtful, independent cinema, places like Mubi, Criterion Channel, or even specialty arms of vast, larger platforms like Amazon's Prime Video or Apple TV+. There's real intent here to make sure Modi reaches the audience it was made for. Viewers who are hungry for substance, for craft, for storytelling that doesn't talk down to them or rush to entertain. And when it does become available, whether on a curated streaming platform or in a select theater screening near you, the advice is simple. Don't wait. Prioritize this film. Make an evening of it. This is not the kind of movie you throw on in the background while folding laundry or scrolling through your phone. This is a film that demands presence. It invites you to slow down, to listen, to absorb. If you can, dim the lights, put away the distractions. Create a space where the silence, the shadow, and the emotional weight of the story can land with full force. Because Modi isn't just watched, it's felt. And that feeling, that resonance, doesn't leave you after the final scene fades out. It lingers, it haunts, it lives inside you in a way few films ever do. For those lucky enough to have already experienced it, many have spoken about the emotional aftershock. Not in dramatic, over-the-top ways, but in quiet admissions. How the film made them think about their own lives, about how we treat artists in our culture, about how easily brilliance can be overlooked when it doesn't fit the mold. Some viewers even admitted they sat in silence through the credits, unsure how to re-enter the world after what they'd just witnessed. That's the power of a film like Modi. It slows your heartbeat. It alters your emotional rhythm. And in a world where content is often consumed and forgotten within minutes, that alone makes it a rare gem worth cherishing. So when it comes your way, don't just catch it if you can. Make time. Be intentional. Whether you experience it in a local art house theater, a university campus screening, or from your own living room, it's worth it. You'll walk away with more than just an opinion. You'll walk away with a story that settles in your bones. And now, I want to hear from you. After everything Johnny Depp has been through, after all the headlines and heartache, do you think Modi marks his true return? Or is this simply a side project, a beautiful outlier in a complicated career? I genuinely want to know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation about art, redemption, and the power of storytelling. If you're as moved by comeback stories as I am, I highly recommend checking out our next video. It's all about Brendan Fraser's emotional return to the spotlight. Like Depp, his journey is full of heartbreak, hope, and a reminder that sometimes the best parts of our story come after the hardest chapters. And hey, if this video gave you a new perspective, consider hitting that like button. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people who love film as much as you do. Subscribe if you haven't already and turn on those notifications so you never miss our deep dives into Hollywood's most powerful moments. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And remember, no matter how dark things get, it's never too late for a second act. Just ask Johnny Depp.